The society we live in is fueled by product and demand. There is no debate that our incessant need to consume more products, more services, more everything can't be good for us, but the real question is why? Why is it that the pervasive consumerism plaguing our society seems to integrate itself so deeply? Even the most minimalistic of us have to admit to the occasional unnecessary splurge. Influencers, kids, parents, everyone seems to be buying more and using less. The most basic form of the question seems to be, why do we buy things we don't need? With recent technological advances and a shifting modern culture, we live as much in the digital world as we do in the physical one. Some of the biggest influences on people, especially young people, are these influencers, these content creators. Maybe you've seen influencers doing $140 Shein hauls. The people in these videos always seem ecstatic to receive their orders, tearing through obscenely unnecessary layers of plastic packaging as they preach the benefits of bulk shopping. Watching these videos might fool you into believing that if there's one thing you need to be happy, it's 40 pounds of bad quality clothing. Media platforms and the people that use them profit off of being a constant source of entertainment. No matter how much content creators pretend to be your friend, they aren't operating as people, they're operating as businesses. And if there's one rule in the entertainment industry, it's that more is always better. And nothing draws in a crowd like a tasteful display of excess. If we want to understand how these products end up in our hands, we have to follow the supply chain. I think that probably one of the biggest perpetrators of waste in recent years is the fast fashion industry. It's called fast fashion for a reason. Most of the clothes purchased are in the garbage by the end of the month. In recent years, the amount of textiles sent to landfills has massively increased. People are buying more stuff than ever, but the majority of it is delivered, glanced at, and then tossed once interest is lost. Why are we buying these things when we don't want them? Our world is more convenient than ever, but that ease means that inhibition is now a lot more difficult to manage. In the past, you would have had to walk down to the mall to buy a new pot or notebook or stickers or whatever it was that you wanted. You were limited to the items there, and most larger items, namely, again, clothing, would be relatively expensive because you were making an investment and you knew what you were buying was good quality and would last you a while. But now everything we buy costs less and breaks down quicker. Items are no longer manufactured to be used, but to be bought. Synthetic materials like polyester are much cheaper to manufacture, but deteriorate and start to look worn after a couple uses, much more so than their natural alternatives, despite taking millions of years to break down in landfills. Let's observe some basic market principles. Supply and demand. On smaller scales, supply and demand seem simple. The more people want something, the more likely they are to buy it. Then you have price determination, which is the concept that the price of an item is determined by the materials used to produce it, the labor required, and most importantly, the demand. But with mass production being the primary means of operation by most all large corporations, consistent consumption of products by consumers is necessary for these businesses to grow exponentially in a competitive capitalist market. People don't actually need most of the things being produced, and so you lose the most important aspect of the marketing process, demand. So what do? You generate artificial demand. Returning to the media for a moment, those influences that were mentioned are more important than you think. The majority of what you see online, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or Snapchat, is an ad. If your favorite content creator has ever posted anything promoting a specific product, a hair curler they've discovered and suddenly love, a shampoo they can't live without, chances are it's an advertisement. Careful product placement is present in almost everything, feeding our brains with subliminal messages even when we don't think we're actively consuming content that promotes commercialism. We click that order button thinking we finally found the solution to all of our little inconvenient problems, but surprise, when that new handy meat fork or hot sauce dish or heated curler you order arrives, you don't feel anything because that demand, that want, has been artificially generated. Because you have been convinced that you need something you don't actually care about at all, that quick dopamine hit you receive from clicking the purchase button is the only satisfaction you get from the entire process. Our generation is very desensitized to normal forms of pleasure or reward because of the constant stream of entertainment available to us. Attention spans are getting shorter, and the default form of information consumption has become 15 to 20-second videos. Because of this, our brains are constantly searching for a new quick dopamine rush. For example, the kind you get when you buy something. The high associated with shopping doesn't come from what you're actually buying, but from the idea of buying itself. Corporations have thrived on this new business model. Low quality goods are being produced not only because they are cheaper for the company to make, but because they are cheaper for the consumer to buy. New products wear out more quickly, encouraging people to stay in a consistent feedback loop of purchase, followed by a momentary feeling of happiness, followed by the quick realization that you don't have any use for the item you just bought. Products from clothing to headphones have evolved to be purchased and disposed of. People no longer buy things that they truly like and want to keep because they've been conditioned to expect to replace it within a couple months anyway. Consumption lacks intentionality. I think on some level, most of us are aware that this is not a good thing. You've probably felt guilty for unnecessary purchases, a term known as buyer's remorse. Perhaps you've gotten home after a long and boring shift, made a purchase you probably shouldn't have. But the truth is, a massive amount of our decision-making process occurs subconsciously, without you even knowing. And the single largest impact on the subconscious aspects of that process is repetition. Without even knowing it, we see hundreds of ads a week. You might not pay too much attention to a worn-down billboard on the side of the highway while you drive, but your brain certainly does. The unsustainable practices in place in our economy today are there as a result of years of unchecked capitalism and the prioritization of profits over any semblance of quality or brand pride. When regulations are lacking, exploitation is inevitable. So what can we do? In our daily lives, we have little power over the larger aspects at play, but observing our own behavior allows us to make better decisions. The next time you feel like making a spur-of-the-moment purchase, consider if you really want the item you plan on buying, or if you just want to buy something. If you still aren't sure, it's best to wait a day or so before reconsidering. There's nothing wrong with buying yourself something, but when making decisions, just consider the reasons behind it.